We're delighted to be involved in this partnership with RADD. As you've seen from the montage, we've got over 70 players involved in sending the simple but critical message pre-Easter that if you're going to drink, don't drive. Over 70 of our players will be involved in the advertisements. It's another example of our players being involved in leadership roles in the community, and I can't think of a more critical message for young adults. If you're going to have a few drinks, don't drive. We're now going to see some of the advertisements that you'll see at our games over the weekend.
I can't remember how, I can't remember why I'm lying here tonight, and I can't stand the pain. How could this happen to me? I made my mistakes, got nowhere to run. The night goes on as I'm fading away.
RADD, for those of you who don't know it, as you can see on the site, is Recording Artists Athletes Against Drink Driving. And the aim of RADD is certainly not to say to Australians don't drink. What RADD is about is being part of this enormous shift in our society, a genuine cultural shift where we actually hopefully end up in a society where we wouldn't even dream of drinking and driving. And I've got to say to you that really terrific progress has been made. For example, as a father of an 18-year-old son, it's wonderful, as a 50-year-old father, it's a real thrill for me to see the change in attitude from my days as an 18-year-old. And I watch with amazement as a society we've done so much good work here, and obviously this is not just a RADD thing, by the way. As a society broadly, something amazing's happened, you know, where my 18-year-old, if he's had a couple of beers the night before, is really conscious of not driving his car until after lunchtime the next day, just to be on the safe side. This is wonderful cultural change, and I wouldn't for a second pretend that RADD is all of that, but we're a small part of it. And what we're doing here with the Rugby League, and I congratulate the Rugby League on their involvement, because the Rugby League, in a sense, as drinking is part of our culture, drink driving cannot be part of our culture, but of course Rugby League is a key part of our culture. And I note with fascination that my 16-year-old daughter and my 18-year-old son, they do see role models in football. I mean, what's my 16-year-old saying to me? We're off to Avoca for Easter. What does my 16-year-old want to do? She wants to drive to Newcastle to watch Andrew Johns play on the weekend. Very, very, very powerful role modelling. These players will influence my 16-year-old daughter's behaviour. So this issue is just terribly important. So using the player's voice and their connection with a young audience. Now I can try and lecture my 18-year-old and 16-year-old all I like. I'm basically a 50-year-old, sort of, you know, by my children's standards, you know, over-the-hill adult. But these guys, my children listen to. They see them as valuable role models. So using their voice, and we thank the players, because RADD is a not-for-profit organisation. Judy Nunn's here today as a voluntary director, and I also volunteer my time as chairman to RADD. And so it is a non-profit organisation, and these people have all also given up their time, also, for nothing, to lend their profiles to this really valuable cause. RADD was founded in Australia a little over 2 years ago, and it's enjoyed the support of almost the entire radio industry and a large part of TV, and we thank you very much for that. Now, RADD's activities, yes, we're not for profit, that's great, we keep our costs down, but at the end of the day, a lot of these issues do cost money, and we at RADD want to thank AERF. Darryl's here today, thank you very much, Darryl. AERF is the Alcohol Education and Rehabilitation Foundation, and they've been very generous supporters, and we hope we're using their money extremely effectively with particularly the youth market. I'd also like to announce that later this year RADD is launching what we believe is a very exciting designated driver initiative involving thousands of pubs and clubs who are cooperating with this process. And so if you identify yourself as a designated driver for the night and you turn up at one of these thousands of venues with one or more mates and identify yourself as the designated driver, you're going to get free soft drink all night. And also, of course, it means your friends have got a sober driver to take them home, which we think is a really valuable initiative. We recognise what works with the youth market. These players, National Rugby League, these players work with the youth market, but also, of course, so do winning prizes like iPods and so on, and that's part of what our nominated designated driver has the ability to win by nominating themselves for the night as the person responsible for their friend's safety. As David Gallop has said, David, thank you so much for coming today. As David has already said, over 70 players from the NRL are now lending their voices to RAD, and certainly one of the best known of those players I'd like to hand you over to now, and that is Craig Wing.
Yeah, as part of RAD, us rugby league players do realise that we are role models, and what RAD is not saying is don't drink, because that certainly wouldn't go down too well with us. They're simply just saying don't drink and drive, and that's a pretty simple message, and it's very, very easy to abide by.
And do you, Craig, just asking you, are you seeing any change over the, as I see change in my kids, are you seeing changing attitudes amongst your peer group in regard to drink driving?
Yeah, I do. You know, it's very, very easy to get caught, particularly around the eastern suburbs these days. You always see RBTs all over the place and police cars all over the place, so it's really not worth the risk. And I suppose we're pretty lucky because everything's very close to us. It's really easy to catch a cab or get one of your friends to just to drive in.
So you are seeing changing attitude?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
And I think, ladies and gentlemen, that's what it's really all about, is, and thanks to your help again, in terms of just shifting this whole culture we have to one of, it simply is not appropriate at any stage to drink and drive.
Yeah, I've been asked to share with you a personal experience of mine about a friend who made the wrong decision and chose to drink and drive. It was Saturday night. He's from a small country town where there's no public transport, taxis or anything, and like a lot of people in the country, they go to the pubs. He lived outside of town, so he drove to the pub and was having a few beers, having a good time, and at the end of the night he didn't know, he wasn't sure what to do, and he chose to drive home, and he crashed his car, and he wasn't found for 2 days later because it was down a ditch on the side of the road, and he wasn't wearing a seatbelt, so he was thrown from the car and was lying in a paddock. And what makes death's always tragic, but what makes his story worse is that he was due to get married in 2 months' time. So instead of his fiancée organising a wedding, she was organising his funeral. And I suppose the message here is that it's if he'd organised his night better, especially the time it is now over Easter, and that if you organise your night better, and it's what's the price of a life? Like, he could have stayed at the pub for $20, even though there was no public transport. In the city here, people can catch a taxi home, and what is it, $20, $50? I think our life's worth a lot more than that. So, thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm from the Hoodoo Gurus. We've been associated with RAD, along with many other artists, for quite some time now, and we're very happy to be even more closely associated thanks to our involvement with the NRL. So this is a song that, of course, everyone knows for the NRL and the Hoodoo Gurus. So here we go. And another thing I've been wondering lately, am I crazy to believe in my team? And now the stage is set for the best season yet you'll see, and you will hear me every week when I scream, that's my team, that's my team, that's my team. I'm yelling, that's my team.